Also high. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So Bronson's going to pull up the presentation, some slides I have for you. But let me tell you first a little bit about me, a few parts of my background that are going to explain why I get the privilege of being up here to talk to you guys about this topic today. So way back, take a little step back in the time machine. The first time I went to university, I went and got an undergrad and a master's degree in marketing and finance. So I learned how to sell things and make money, basically. Finance comes with a lot of math. Growing up, I was a big math nerd. I was not an athlete. I played no sports. I did nothing athletic or active. So I've always really enjoyed math. So part of what I'm going to take you through today is how we can use math, thank you, to be making sure we're on the right track in terms of keeping track of whether we're getting the outcomes we want of our health and our fitness and that sort of thing. After university, after I finished my master's in finance, I took a job in the finance industry. Then I decided, like a big dumb idiot, to quit my job and become a personal trainer and open a gym. And that turned out to not be a horrible mistake. And 15 years later, now I've been a strength and conditioning coach, and I've owned a CrossFit gym since 2008 with my husband, who's over there. Hi, wave at David. There are, it's true, only 3 level 4 CrossFit coaches in Canada, and 2 of them are in the room here with you today. He's one of the other ones. The other guy lives in Prince Edward Island, so you got 2/3 of Canada's team here with you today. And then a few years ago, after starting my own, health and nutrition journey, after I had my second baby and documenting it and nerding out on the keto athlete, a few people were like, "Hey, you should probably do something with this." And I went, "Yeah, I like school and I like learning." So I decided to go back to school, and I'm in the tail end. I have 1 semester left of finishing a Master's of Science in Clinical Nutrition, and I'm at a functional medicine-based school. Thank you. So I get to kind of put these 3 things together, the center of the Venn diagram, a little bit of the math background, a lot of the strength and conditioning and fitness background, and then some of the health care and science-related stuff as well. So I used to be dabbling in the competitive side of CrossFit. I'm not right now, so don't let me oversell my fitness. I was a Olympic weightlifter, so I had lots of time in the strength and conditioning space. But really what I enjoy now is teaching other people how to be fit and healthy. So here's my disclosures. None. I have none. I have no ties to industry. I have no ties to any institutions. I'm not beholden for grant money. I'm not paid or sponsored by anyone to say anything. So I think I'm the least biased person you'll ever meet, in the sense that the only people that pay me to say anything are the members of my gym, and they decide whether to hire or fire me essentially every month based on what I'm saying, whether it works or not. So I'm the least biased person ever, but I'm also 100% biased towards results. If what I say doesn't work, people fire me immediately. So I'm biased towards one thing and one thing only, and that's results. And these results have to be real and measurable. They need to be measurable and observable. So we're going to figure out how to make sure that the results that we're after, that we're achieving them and that they're actionable and time-bound here. So let's start first. Like any good scientist or good mathematician, we have to start first by defining our terms. When we say health, how about let's do a show of hands. How many people are here with the motivation they would like to be healthier? Everybody, I presume that's why you're here. Great. So we need to define what that means, right? How are we going to know if what we're doing is working? The current standard definition of health that we work off of in healthcare is just this. It's the absence of disease. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not very satisfied with that answer, because if I'm just not currently sick, if I just don't currently have a diagnosable disease, I'm a healthy person. That's a definition that's not cutting it for me. So we're going to start first by working from a better definition of health. If it's going to have a good definition, we better be able to measure it. So here's the standard how your doctor, when you go, gives you a picture of measuring your health based on biometrics. Blood pressure, percentage of body fat, bone density, things you would get from your DEXA scan, your blood lipids that Dr. Hussey talked about quite a bit, your triglycerides, HDL, LDL, all those sorts of things, the percentage of your red blood cells that have been glycated by sugar, your HbA1c, glycated hemoglobin, maybe your percentage of muscle mass, all these things. Bronson used a term this morning that I wrote down and went, ooh, I'm going to steal that. He said, these are metrics, not goals. But for right now, these are the metrics that your doctor is using to decide whether you're healthy. And we know that for each of those things, there are numbers where your doctor would go, you are sick. You have a disease. If I show up at my doctor and my blood pressure is 140/90 or higher, I have a disease, a condition called hypertension. If I show up at my doctor with my blood pressure at 120/80, the doctor goes, great, you're right in the normal or healthy range. If I show up at my doctor with a blood pressure of 95/50 or 60, the doctor goes, wow, you're really fit. We could do the same thing with percentage of body fat. There's clear numbers. A body fat percentage above 32 is clinically obese. A body fat percentage, it varies slightly for men and women, but maybe 20 to 25% is considered normal. If I show up at my doctor with a body fat percentage of 15, maybe 18, the doctor goes, wow, you're really fit. So we start to see that all of these metrics that we're using, they sit well ordered on a continuum, from sickness to wellness to fitness. So when we're looking at these things, or what your doctor is looking at, we see that these three measures of being sick or well or fit, these things are actually different measures of a single quality, and that quality is health. So if I live my life over here on the right at fitness, what I've built for myself is essentially a hedge against sickness, because I would have to get well before I could get sick. Now, I've had a DEXA scan, bone density scan. I'm turning 40 in 2 months, so let's call me middle-aged. My T-score on my bone density scan is 3. I sit 3 standard deviations above the norm for a woman my age. For me to ever get osteoporosis, which we talked quite a bit about with Claire, in the next half of my life, I would have to have a DEXA scan where I had a normal bone density before I could ever graduate to having a pathological bone density and being diagnosed with a disease. When I was pregnant with my second baby, my normal blood pressure, I'm that like 95/55 kind of person. I have nice, low, healthy blood pressure. About 5 months into my pregnancy, I went to my doctor. She takes my blood pressure and she goes 120/80. You're doing great. And I went, ooh, that's high for me. I was moving on this continuum in the wrong direction. And towards the end of my pregnancy, what happened was my blood pressure got very out of control, 200/100. And yeah. But they did end up taking my son. I had a C-section. They took him out at 37 weeks, which is a full-term pregnancy, because I was basically just allergic to being pregnant. You guys, it wasn't a fun time. But because I had this hedge built up, I was able to safely make it to a full-term pregnancy, and they didn't have to take him out at 30 or 32 weeks, right? So I was able to, bring a healthy baby boy into the world because I had this hedge, because I was fit going into my pregnancy. So we would like to move ourselves along that continuum towards the right. We want to go this direction. Agreed? Yes, that's why we're all here, right? So how to move along the continuum. Currently, the healthcare system can medicate you from sickness, and they can medicate these metrics into the normal range. So if you show up at your doctor and you have, the standard or, menu of chronic disease that lots of people have, hypertension, that's high blood pressure, obesity, particularly abdominal obesity, dyslipidemia, that's high triglycerides, low HDL, dyspepsia, that's GERD or esophageal reflux disease, depression, diabetes or hyperglycemia. Your doctor, there are meds for that. And I think the theme I've noticed while we've been here yesterday and this morning in the discussions is this is the room full of people that don't want to take the meds. I've heard that several times. They're like, I want to do it myself. I don't want to just be on a bunch of pills. Agreed? How many people feel like that? Yeah, awesome. You guys are my people. This is great. Yes. Okay, so this medicating things into the normal range is a very like chewing gum and duct tape kind of way to create a supposedly healthy person, or a person that doesn't currently have a diagnosable disease. So what we get to is something that looks like this. Well, we got Ozempic for the obesity, we got metformin for the glucose, we got lisinopril for the blood pressure, we got Lipitor for the cholesterol, we got Prilosec for the GERD, we got Zoloft for the mood, and now we've got this person where all their numbers are in the normal range, and you go, I'm healthy. And you go, are you though? Like, that's why this absence of disease definition of health doesn't cut it for me. So we don't want to be this kind of chewing gum and duct tape sort of superhero in our life, right? We'd like to move from this wellness, and maybe we got here just by living our life, absence of disease. Maybe we got here through medication. But we're living in the middle. We don't have much of a buffer. We don't have much of a savings account in terms of our health. So we want to move on that continuum in the direction towards fitness, the real superhero. Fitness being essentially just a state of super health, super wellness. Now, the thing is, on that continuum that I showed you, there are no medications that can move you from wellness to fitness. So we cannot do this transition with medicine. That's not even an option. You can medicate yourself from sickness to wellness, but you cannot medicate yourself from wellness to fitness. The only things that move you along that continuum are the lifestyle factors of diet and exercise. These are the personal things that you have within your control. So we want to move towards fitness. Agreed? Yes. Yes. Now we better define that too. How are we going to measure fitness? Here, I looked it up in the dictionary. The definition of fitness, what does that actually mean if I say I'm fit? The quality of being suitable to fulfill a particular role or task. My fitness is my ability to do tasks. What tasks? All of them, any of them. Lift this up off the ground, climb this flight of stairs, sit down and stand up off of this toilet, whatever it is. My fitness is a measure of my ability to do tasks. So how are we going to quantify or measure my ability to do tasks? Told you guys I'm like a math nerd. Now, I'm going to take you through a little bit of math, but there's no math on the test, so don't get freaked out here. I'm going to measure my ability to do tasks with the formula for power. Do we have any like engineers in the room or anything like that, right? So you're going to recognize this formula for power. Force times distance divided by time. In terms of my ability as a human to do tasks, this means how much does it weigh? Maybe it's just my body weight. Maybe it's a dumbbell. Maybe it's a kettlebell. Maybe it's a hay bale. Maybe it's a water jug. Doesn't matter what it is. How far did I move it? Up and down or across or whatever, and how many times? And then how long did it take? What was the time frame for me to complete the task? So with 3 simple tools, a scale to know how much something weighed, a measuring tape to know how far, and a stopwatch to know how long, I can get some data. I can start to have a number of the power output of that task that I just completed. So in this case, if I measured it in pounds, measured the distance in feet, and measured the time in minutes, I would get a number called pound-feet per minute. Does anybody know what pound-feet per minute is a measure of? Any car nerds in the room? That's horsepower. Horsepower is measured in foot-pounds per minute. So you could measure how much power I am able to generate relative to a horse. Sometimes it's quite a bit, you guys. And then what I could do is I could do a bunch of different tasks. Anything that's measurable is fair game. So something like my ability to run 5K. That's a measurable task. I know the distance, I know my body weight, I could figure out the time. I could do what's the heaviest thing I can lift off the ground. In the gym, we call that a deadlift. I could figure out what it weighs, how far the distance of how far I moved it, and then I could do a little stopwatch of how long it took. What are some other measurable tasks? Throw anything out there. Swimming, yeah, let's say like, yeah, jumping. Jump on this box 50 times. Swim, 200 meters or whatever it is, right? So we can start to think of all kinds of different things. Pick up these 2 water jugs and carry them half a mile. How about more occupationally fit types things like take this fire hose and carry it 400 meters, right? So it doesn't have to be gym specific movements. Anything that's observable and measurable is fair game. And what we would find on this little graph, what we have on the bottom is minutes, that's the time. And what we have on the vertical axis, the y-axis, is the power I was able to generate. In a very short period of time, way on the left, I can generate a lot of power, but I can't do that for very long. That dies out pretty quick. I can do it like once. On the other end, on the right, is my ability to go long, but go slow for like a really long time. And so what we have now, we can create a regression line. That's like Excel is for that. It's not a calculator thing. But we can create a line, create a regression line, point of average across all these different time domains. And then what I can do, so here's what we have. My fitness is my work capacity, my ability to do tasks across broad time, right? So we had lots of time points, short time to long time, and modal domains, modalities, all these little green dots, all the different tasks that we said I was going to complete. So my fitness is my work capacity across broad time and modal domains, measurable, observable, even repeatable. So then what I can do is a little bit of calculus, and I could figure out the area under that curve. That area, the blue area, is my fitness. My ability to do tasks and all kinds of tasks is the area under that curve. Who's with me in terms of the math? Calculus guys, like a few of you? Yeah, that's for you guys, my math nerds out there. Now, over time, this right now would be like a slice. This is a slice of my work capacity right now. Here's Jocelyn at almost 40 years old. This is my work capacity right now. I could also take these slices at 20 years old and 25 years old. I could take them every year from when I started my fitness and all the way till I die. And then what we could do, oh, let's go here first. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. Stay on task, Jocelyn. Jeez. Okay, so fitness is my work capacity. What goes into creating that type of fitness with lots of area under the curve? All of these different things. Well, I have to be strong because I have to be able to lift heavy things once at the high end of the curve. I have to have good conditioning because I have to be able to go long at the other end of the curve. I have to have good strength and balance and agility and accuracy and agility and coordination, all those things that go into me being capable of doing lots of different tasks, right? So all of these different types of things, types of skills and drills, types of physical adaptations go into creating this type of fitness with lots of area under the curve. Now, let's add where I wanted to go next. All of the slices, and then let's stack them together. And I could create another type of graph, but it's going to need a third axis. This is going to be more of a 3D model. So now what we've added is my age. So here's my work capacity at a bunch of different ages. Let's say I did one every year, 21, 22, and that area under the curve now becomes volume. So this volume under this 3D shape is my work capacity throughout my lifetime, my ability to do tasks throughout my lifetime. Now, at the youngest ages, my ability to do tasks is very low. Have you guys ever seen a baby? Those guys can't do anything. And it builds up through the middle. We try to build up as much volume under the curve as we can, but then towards the end of my life, it declines. My ability to do tasks goes down past middle age. But what I want to be left with in my marginal decade, which is whatever is the last decade of my life, is the ability to still do the tasks that are important to me, live a high quality and functionally independent life. Most often, what lands people in a nursing home is loss of functional capacity and loss of the ability to do things like carry their groceries, go up and down the stairs, get off the toilet by themselves. Now in the gym, we call those movements lunges and squats and deadlifts, but in real life, those are just the things you need to be able to live independently, right? So if I need that much work capacity left, but knowing that it's going to decline as I age, I need to build up as much as I can in the middle. So now, if we know that fitness is just my work capacity, and now we have my work capacity throughout a lifetime, and we know that fitness is just a state of super health, well, now that what we've arrived at is health is just my work capacity across broad time and modal domains across the years of my life. So my health is just my ability to do tasks. And I would like to have as much work capacity as I can for as long as I can. So now that we've got to a better definition of health, things that are real goals and not just metrics, like Coach Bronson said, we can have a better way of understanding whether our efforts are working and they're getting us to the things that we actually want. I don't want lower blood pressure. I want to be not dead. I don't want lower blood pressure. I want to not have a stroke and lose, some functional capacity of my body. I don't want, people go, I have a goal weight. No, you don't. You have a goal thing that you could do when you have achieved that body weight, right? Nobody just goes, I want to lose 100 pounds. Why do you want to lose 100 pounds? Just to be less, just to weigh less. You're like, no, I want to be able to go up and down the stairs. I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I want to be around for a really long time. I want to feel better. I want to have more energy. I want to sleep better. All of those things are the goals. The metric might be the body weight, but the goal is some kind of functional capacity. It always comes back to that. I want to be able to do fill in the blank, whatever it is. And I believe Claire kind of touched on that because you have to understand your why, right? You have to understand why do you want to have better bone density? Why do you want to live longer? Why do you want to be able to live independently, right? Because it means better quality of life. Loss of functional capacity, loss of just the ability to do stuff is your loss of quality of life and independent living. What we have right now, and because we've been aiming at the wrong target in terms of medicating metrics, is that people right now aren't really living any longer. They're just taking longer to die. Right? So we need better biomarkers of health. So we need to be aiming at the right target. We should be measuring what we actually care about. There's a great book by a gentleman named John Dewar, it's called Measure What Matters. So if what matters is our functional capacity and our ability to do tasks, we need to be measuring those things. We need to be measuring not just what can be medicated. So if we want to measure our ability to do stuff, I'm going to show you some better biomarkers of health. These are really simple, easy, safe, cheap things that your doctor should be paying attention to, but even if they're not, these are some things that you can use on yourself to know if we're on the right track. And I'm going to talk more about like the alarm bell levels that would have us, the red flags when we're falling towards sickness on that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. I'm not going to worry about like high performance athletic stuff on the fitness side of things so much. So the first one is grip strength. Grip strength is very reliably, repeatably linked in the scientific literature to basically everything that your doctor cares about. So grip strength is a very reliable measure of overall muscle mass and strength because you don't really get a strong grip by accident. You don't get a strong grip really any other way than, farm labor, manual labor jobs, or being in a gym, lifting and gripping heavy things, climbing, that sort of thing. Grip strength is very safe to test. It's literally just a little hand dynamometer. You have people just squeeze it as hard as you can. It's cheap, to do in the scientific literature. I looked it up. You can buy a hand dynamometer on Amazon for like $30. So it's cheaper than other things like running DEXA scans and lots of blood work and stuff on people. So it's cheap, it's easy, it's really safe. So you can do it with people all the way into their elderly years. I can't exactly have an 85-year-old person in a research study load up their 1 rep max back squat and go, let's see what happens, right? So that's why you see grip strength in the research all the time. So I just want to be clear that it's a proxy for overall muscle mass and strength. It's not specifically the grip itself. So it's just a marker of overall strength. Grip strength predicts all-cause mortality, as in who's going to die of anything in the next 10 years, better than any other known metric, better than blood pressure. And blood pressure is like kind of considered to be the gold standard. Now, I cited one paper here. This is just a systematic review and meta-analysis of grip strength, but in the literature, it's been linked to upper body limb function, bone mineral density, risk of fracture, so we're back to our osteoporosis, falls, malnutrition, cognitive impairment, depression, sleep problems, diabetes, multi-morbidity, which is where you have many of these at once, and quality of life. The predictive link between grip strength and all-cause and disease-specific mortality, future function, bone mineral density, fractures, and risk of hospitalization. Now, in 2018, a study of 500,000 adults, this is a very big sample size, found that lung cancer, heart disease, and all-cause mortality were predicted by the strength of a person's grip. It's just a hand dynamometer, dynamometer, depends how you want to say it. So it depends on your age. If you really want to get nerdy on it, it's in some of the papers and stuff. It's like if women fall below 23 kilograms of force, then there's definitely cutoff points, and it depends on age. So even in one where they did grip strength among people in their 80s, those in the lowest quartile had the greatest chance that they were going to die in the next 10 years, but those at the top, that was the strongest predictor of any other biomarker about whether they were going to live past 100. So why is strength so important? Well, muscle does all the heavy lifting of managing your blood glucose. So if you eat a lot of carbohydrates and your blood sugar goes too high and it needs to get pushed out of circulation, the primary place it goes, or it should go, is into your muscle tissue. So there's that. It's very metabolically healthy in terms of managing stable blood glucose. It also is the thing we need to be able to do all those functional tasks we talked about. When you can do functional tasks and live independently, you're more able to participate in life, you're able to maintain your social structure, you're able to get out of your house and go and do and see people, which is an underappreciated contributor to cognitive function and mental health, especially in your older years, so to be an active participant in life. It also helps you have proper motor patterns, so you're much less likely to trip and fall. You're more stable going up and down stairs, so you suffer less trip and fall accidents. And even if you did, you have the ability to maybe grab onto the handrail and stop yourself from taking a major wipeout. Or you have this sort of padding around your joints and bones so that maybe you don't suffer a major bone break. In older adults, over the age of 65, those that suffer a major bone break of either the femur or the hip, the mortality within 1 year, the chance that that person will die is 1 in 5. So if you fall and break a hip, the chance that you'll be dead within a year is 1 in 5. So we would really, really like to avoid slip and fall accidents and major bone breaks, especially as we get older. So being strong means less dead. Walking speed. This one had older adults, gait speed, walk a mile at whatever felt like their natural pace. Those who could walk a mile in under 27 minutes and 16 seconds, that was the cutoff. So that's only 2.2 miles per hour. That's not a particularly brisk pace. It's not bad. It's very achievable. Those people lived longer. And on the other end, the people that took 46 minutes or longer to walk a mile were much more likely to be dead within the following 5 years. So once we start to walk slower, once we change our gait, right, that's a marker of cardiovascular fitness. Do we have the lung capacity to breathe and to walk? When we start to walk slow and we start to shuffle our feet, that's a change of that motor pattern. When we don't properly lift our feet up anymore, we're much more likely to trip on things and fall and have those major bone breaks that lead to mortality, right? So walking speed, very important, which means we need to do it. Get out and go walking. What did Coach Bronson say? Got to move often. Balance. Oh, Lord. So this one was just a simple test of the ability to stand on one leg. And could you do that for 10 seconds? This one didn't have so much of a continuum. It was really just like a hard cutoff point at 10 seconds. If you could not balance on one leg for 10 seconds, your chances of being dead in the next 10 years were double. Again, what does that reflect? These are markers. These are proxies for things. Well, slip and fall accidents, again, it maybe reflects my muscle mass. It maybe reflects how much time I've spent on my feet, right? Just moving around and doing and participating in life. So better balance, less dead. More stamina, muscle stamina, less dead. This study was in, they considered them occupationally fit. It was in firefighters. Now, the number one cause of death among firefighters, people might think it would be due to the occupational hazards of fighting fires and being in very dangerous situations. You would think it's smoke inhalation or job site injuries or maybe loss of life in a fire. It's not. It's sudden cardiac death. Firefighters die of the same thing that the average American dies of. The number one cause of death is heart failure, heart attacks. So they were trying to figure out how could they better predict among these firefighters who was most at risk of their primary cause of death. So this was all in men. They had them do push-ups on a metronome. They set a metronome for 80 beats per minute, and they had to go down, up, up, up. Standard for a push-up. Your body stays in a plank position. You touch your chest, stomach, and thighs to the floor, and then you return to that plank position with your arms locked out at the top. The men who could do 40 push-ups or more, staying on the beat, had 96% less risk of heart attack than those who quit or failed at less than 10 reps. Now, why would that be? What does that reflect? Well, obviously strength, muscle mass. Obviously, to be able to do 40 push-ups on that kind of metronome without, I think the point where they considered the test done or failed was where they had missed more than 3 reps. Either just through muscle failure or they fell off the beat of it. You should try it, Bronson. He's looking at me right now like, I don't know if I could do that, right? He's like, oh, that's a lot. 40 is a lot. So if you can do 40 push-ups on an 80 beats per minute metronome, you're probably the kind of person that exercises. Agreed? You're probably the kind of person that consistently makes fitness part of your life. So more muscle stamina, less dead. And better mobility, less dead. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. I've kind of showed you guys a few. This is my favorite one. This is called the sitting rising test. This was first published in European Society of Cardiology, 2012. Very simple. The test is you're instructed to get down on the floor and back up again with the least support you consider necessary. There's 10 points for the test. There's 5 points for being able to lower yourself down to the floor, and there's 5 points for being able to rise up. A perfect score of 10 means that you can just lower yourself down onto the floor, sit with your legs out straight, and come back up without needing any assistance with the side of your leg with a knee, with an elbow. So I have to stay within the tape. Sit on the floor and get back up again, right? Now, every time that I need to use a knee or roll onto a side of my arm or my elbow or use a hand to push myself on the way down or the way up is a loss of 1 point. If I'm getting up but I stumble and lose my balance, that's a loss of half a point. So those with a score of less than 3 were 5 to 6 times, that's 500 to 600% more likely to be dead within the follow-up period, which was 6 years in this case. And this one was done with 51 to 80-year-old people and over 2,000 participants. So decent sample size, so this is in older adults. Now, why would that be? Well, what does the sitting rising test reflect? It reflects my flexibility. I have to be able to get down and get back up in that position, right? I have to be able to bend my hips and knees and ankles to be able to get down there. It reflects my strength to be able to rise my body weight from down to up. It reflects my balance because I have to be able to do it and not fall over. So it reflects a lot of those things that I said went into fitness. So it reflects some physiological components, strength and flexibility. It reflects some neurological components, balance and coordination. So the ability to sit and rise from the floor. Now this one has been repeated since it was first published in 2012 with all different populations and different ages and all sorts of things. So the reliability of this as a marker of all-cause mortality is very, very high in the literature. So what you have in your handout from me is a little test you can administer for yourself. So among those metrics that I just laid out, you could go home and you could kind of put yourself through those tests. And I gave you a little, red light, yellow, green light sort of range for all those things. Grip strength, if you don't have a measure of, yeah, there you go, got a few of them printed out. You could do something simple like go to a playground and find a monkey bar and just see how long you can hang on it. And that can give you a reasonable proxy for grip strength. You don't have to do it here, you can do it in your hotel room or back home. Sit on the ground and stand back up and see how it goes. Right? Yeah, you can do it in the privacy of your own home. You could try to do a push-up and see how it goes. Obviously, those numbers are a little different for men and women. I gave you 2 kinds of ranges. It's estimated that less than 20 to 30% of Americans can do even 1 push-up. All right, so the number, if you can't do 1, you're very much in the majority. That's fine. But these things would just kind of tell you some things. Can you stand on 1 leg for 10 seconds? And you can use these things for yourself as maybe some red flags. You're like, ooh, my balance is not good, or ooh, my mobility to sit down on the ground is not good. These things need some work, right? So then if you're going to undertake a fitness program, because we really said there is no health without fitness, and we just said fitness is the ability to do tasks. All I gave you was just a list of tasks you could try to do. I've had a few people this weekend ask me, like, well, what about swimming, or what about Orange Theory, or what about? I'm obviously a big CrossFit nerd, but I'm pretty agnostic to whatever you want to try. But our metric of is it working for you is it improving your ability to do tasks over time? Now, I don't think CrossFit's the only way to get fit. I just think it's the best way. Yeah. But we need to be making progress, and the progress is a measurable, observable way to do tasks. Now, I was just chatting with Teresa at lunchtime. She told me she's a CrossFitter, CrossFit nerd over there. The first time she walked into a CrossFit gym, she did a workout called the Filthy 50, which if anybody goes, oh no, like it's a big workout. It's 10 movements. There's 50 reps of each thing. It's a lot of work. That's not necessarily what your first experience has to be like in a CrossFit gym, though, by the way. But she knew exactly what the tasks were, and she wrote down her time. What was your time? 55 minutes. And then my next question was, how long does it take you to do that now? And she said, yeah, she told me 28 minutes. She's being humble over there. 28 minutes. So we have the same measurable tasks. At one point in time, it took her 55 minutes. She repeats it months or years later, and now it takes her 28 minutes. Guess what that is? That's a measurable, observable improvement in fitness and an improvement in her health and her quality of life. So then as she goes, is this working? Yes, heck yeah, really, like almost takes her half the time that it used to. So anything that you want to do, I support it as long as you keep track and it works at improving your work capacity over time. Okay. Questions? I saw a hand up in the middle somewhere here.
So how would you improve on getting down or getting back?
Yes.
What would you do like each time? You could just keep doing it over and over and over and over?
I mean, essentially, yeah.
Hopefully to get better?
Yeah, so if we talk about where would my efforts be best applied in the gym, the movements I said that I wanted to be able to do until I die is sit down and stand up, is lift things off the ground, put things on a shelf, carry things and go up and down stairs. In the gym, we call those things squats, lunges, deadlifts, presses, you know, that sort of thing. My ability to get down on the ground and back up. The video that Claire showed last night, what's a burpee? Torture. But is it though? Because how many people have someone that they love in their family that if they fell down on the ground, they wouldn't be able to get back up on their own? Right? A lot of people. It happens in nursing homes all the time. So as much as it's torture, you can sort of choose your level of hard. If I do a lot of burpees now in the middle of my life, do you think I'm ever going to need someone to come and help me get off the floor when I'm 85? Do you think I'll be able to do one of those when I'm 85 if I happen to fall down and I need to get back up again? If I can do 100 really fast right now, I've probably bought myself some capacity to ride down in real life. So the answer to most things of how to get better at them is to do them. Do the thing. I can give you a bunch of accessory movements and, oh, you need to stretch your ankles and this and that, but it's like, no, you literally just need to do those motor patterns. You need to sit on the floor more often. The number of people that won't just sit on the floor given the opportunity or hang out in a squat while they're waiting for something or lift something off the ground or, you know, carry their groceries in one trip, grab all of them, those sorts of things. Yeah. And then because we said that test reflected a lot of things. Is it the strength that feels like the problem? I probably need to work on getting stronger. Is it the flexibility that feels like the problem? Well, maybe I could go to yoga and work on my flexibility. Is it just it feels really uncomfortable and I don't like doing it? Well, then we should probably just do it more often and get more comfortable with it. The cool thing about functional movements is that they are rehabilitative in and of themselves. The more you work on improving your ability to sit down and stand up, that's a squat, the better you get at sitting down and standing up. With more balance, with more strength, to a lower target. You guys were talking about push-ups, right? You started doing a push-up maybe to a countertop height, and then it gets lower and lower and lower, and now you're doing push-ups. So what did you say, Claire? 15 inches? Yeah. So if Claire started off being able to do push-ups at 28 inches, and now she can do them to 15 inches, what do we know about Claire? She's getting fitter. She's getting healthier. She's increasing her work capacity. She's improving in her ability to do tasks. Now, I told you that there was 2 lifestyle factors here. So really what we're looking at, and all of you guys that raised your hands and you said, I'd rather do this myself than take the meds, these things are a marker of a personality trait called conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is seeing a connection between how you live and what happens later and adjusting accordingly. It's being able to maybe do the hard thing now or delay gratification now so that you can fill in the blank, whatever it is you want to be. I'm going to go to the gym now so that I can live independently when I'm older. I'm going to not eat this cookie now so that I can have good cognitive function into my 80s, right? Being able to do the hard thing now. I'm going to torture myself with burpees so that no one ever has to help me get off the floor when I'm older, right? Being able to do the hard thing now. So currently with our treatment-based healthcare system, right, we're measuring the wrong thing, we're aiming at the wrong target, we're just measuring what we can medicate, not what matters. This healthcare system teaches people that they can do what they like, and then it can just be healed with a pill or a procedure, pills and surgery, right? The marketing and sale of medical services tears down conscientiousness. It removes the self-efficacy from the individual, from the patient. Functional metrics of health, like we've been talking about, help build that back up, build that self-efficacy back up. They give the power and the strength and the speed and the stamina back to the patients, back to the individuals, right? All these things on that handout in your hand, the only person that can make those better is you, right? Should you choose to do the work. You don't have to, I'm not up here to tell you what to do, but once you have the data in front of you, the only person that can do it is you, right? So we have the exercise half, we've defined fitness. We sort of know where we need to be to push things in the right direction. Let's talk about the other half of lifestyle, diet and exercise. So let's talk about the diet that supports health. Health is just your ability to do tasks. So let's talk about the diet that supports our ability to do tasks. We need to eat to support our muscle mass. We need the strength to do tasks. That supports our joints and our connective tissue. We need all these joints to bend and move in all the ways they're intended to. We need strong bones, right? We've been talking about osteoporosis quite a bit. We need to be able to make energy to do all the tasks that we want, good energy production, and we need our brains to work to coordinate all of that happening. So what do muscles need? Muscles need from the diet protein, not just protein, they need amino acids, and they need certain amino acids in certain ratios in order to properly form the muscle tissue itself, particularly an amino acid called leucine. We also need vitamins, particularly vitamin B12 and B9, which are involved in the replication of cells. So if you're interested in making more muscle tissue, you need vitamin D as part of this process. You also need saturated fats, as they are the precursor to the hormones such as testosterone that drive muscle growth in the first place. And you also need a mineral called zinc. Now, what are the best dietary sources? If we went, this is what we need, and let's work backward to where to find those things. The best sources of the amino acids we need, B12, B9, vitamin D, saturated fat, and zinc, meat, red meat, organs, eggs, dairy, particularly full-fat dairy, and seafood. What about the joints? Joints need the collagen amino acids. I love that Dr. Hussey brought up collagen. Collagen is built out of 3 amino acids, proline, hydroxyproline, and glycine. We need vitamin C. Vitamin C is part of the process of synthesizing collagen. We also need the fat-soluble vitamins A and E. We need a few minerals, manganese, zinc, and copper to coordinate the creation of all this connective tissue. Now, what are the best sources of these things that our joints need? Meat, organs including bone broth, that sort of thing, eggs, dairy, seafood, a little bit of nuts and seeds here and there for things like manganese, and throw in a vegetable once in a while for the vitamin C. Particularly things like maybe cauliflower or bell peppers that are very low in sugar and very high in vitamin C. What do the bones need? Hey, guess what? 50% of the dry weight of bone is actually protein. Bones are made of collagen. It's a collagen matrix, and then it gets mineralized with hydroxyapatite, which is made of calcium and phosphorus. So as much as I say bones and you think calcium, you can thank the dairy industry for all the effective marketing they've done, that you think bones and calcium and you think milk. You actually need protein first. Your bones are made of protein. So again, we need those amino acids. In the process of forming bone tissue, we need the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D, and particularly vitamin K2, which was brought up yesterday. Vitamin K2 is found in the fat of grass-fed animals. So given that most animals are grain-fed these days, vitamin K2 is very deficient in the modern diet. So unless you're paying extra for the grass-fed beef and the grass-fed butter and that kind of stuff, you may need to consider supplementing with vitamin K2. We also, again, need vitamin B12, and again, we need zinc. Best sources of these things? Oh, guess what? Meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. Kind of repeating myself, aren't I? What about energy production and the transport of energy and the things needed to make energy? Well, we need to make energy mostly in the mitochondria. We need to transport oxygen around in the red blood cells in order for the mitochondria to function, the powerhouse of the cell, as someone shouted out earlier. We need all the proteins. There's lots and lots of little proteins involved in the process of energy production. So we need all of the essential amino acids. They're considered essential because you have to get them from the diet and you need them to live. You need all the B vitamins, particularly B1, B2, B3, B5, and B6. I don't know why there's no B4, but B1 to 6, but not 4. Yeah. Heme iron, which is the animal form of iron. That's what's needed in your hemoglobin, in your red blood cells to transport oxygen. You need manganese, involved in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. And again, you need zinc, copper, and magnesium. Those are considered cofactors to all the little enzymes that drive the energy powerhouse of the cell. Hey, guess what? Where you get all these things? Meat, eggs, dairy, seafood, a little bit of nuts and seeds. Seem to be onto something. Finally, let's talk about the brain. Structure and function of the brain. Well, obviously there's a lot of proteins involved, right? And all the little enzymes and neurotransmitters. Somebody mentioned earlier that protein, was it Dr. Hussey, protein is the precursor to thyroid hormone. It's also the precursor to all of your amino acids. Serotonin is derived from an amino acid called tryptophan. Dopamine also derived, all these things that you're familiar with as the chemicals in your brain that help you function and feel good. Those things are based on proteins. Again, you need the B vitamins. Again, you need heme iron. The brain is very energy demanding, so requires a lot of oxygen transport. And again, you need some minerals, magnesium and zinc and copper. One thing I didn't include on this slide is actually all of the naturally occurring fats. Every time your brain fires a signal, it's a little burst of electricity. So, but you are a watery bag of meat, and electricity needs to flow through water, so it needs to be insulated. Every one of those little electrical impulses, it needs to be insulated. And those get insulated with something called myelin, which is made from fat. And the more times you fire that neural pathway, the better insulated it gets and the better it works. So now we're back to like, we just need to do it more often and we get better at it. That's literally what's happening at the level of the brain. Myelin never goes away, except in the conditions of multiple sclerosis and advanced age. So where do we get those things from? Oh, turns out meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. So now if we worked from a better definition of health that included our ability to do tasks, we've got ourselves aimed at the right target, and now we've got the diet that works to support those things. Guess what that diet is? It's the proper human diet.
Can I play something else?
Yeah, for sure. Meat, eggs, yeah. People say take your meds, meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. Yeah. Take your meds, different kind of meds. Take your meds, meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. That's right. Now, if I aim at the wrong target and I'm just aiming at wellness, where I just want to have an absence of a currently diagnosable disease. Yes, Coach B? Oh, okay. Proper human diet gets us aimed at the right target and keeps us from being fooled into other things like, hey, if I just eat plants, I'll be healthy, right? Because if I just eat plants, I won't be able to continue to do functional tasks. It depletes my muscle mass, my bone density, and my brain function, and all those kinds of things. I don't get all those amino acids and vitamins and minerals and all those things I needed. So, questions? Yes?
You say dairy, what do you mean?
Dairy, so anything that comes out of a lactating animal, technically. So we think cows, but also could include like goat milk, and you go to other parts of the world and they use yak butter and all sorts of things. So
you're type 2 diabetic, you're trying to avoid sugar. What's left?
yeah, so you can, like butter is a dairy product, full fat sour cream, full fat yogurt. With yogurt we talked about yesterday where the bacteria have digested the lactose, so the bacteria have digested the sugar for you. Heavy cream. There's anything made out of, like in that whole category of things made from milk and from all various animals that produce milk. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and hold. If you have any questions for Jocelyn, hold them. We're going to do a panel later, so you can ask her all the questions.
There is a vitamin B4.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. When she was talking about measurable tasks and the type of measurable tasks that she was bringing up, I started to think about summertime, right? The things that she was talking about sounded so much fun. And do you remember when you would come back from summer break and all the kids at school would ask you, what did you do over summer break, right? And you wanted to be able to tell your friends, like, all of the fun things that you did. When did the light switch flip and we started to celebrate, let me tell you what I can't do, right? Like, let me tell you, what did you do this summer? Nothing. And it was amazing. I can't do this and I can't do that. But do you run into people who almost feel like the need to tell you, let me tell you about what is not possible for me to do. Let's celebrate that together. So it was really neat to hear Jocelyn bring back a love for finding measurable tasks. How many people had somebody in their family, I think of my grandfather immediately, where the last thing he wanted to do was not be able to get back up under his own strength. Like the thought of, I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I want to do things. I want to be, he was farm strong and he loved doing his own stuff. Does anybody else have somebody in their family they could think of that it was like, man, independence was key to them? My grandfather was certainly like that. And you had a grandfather that was like that too.
Oh yeah, everything was always like, you have to be able to do it. As a matter of fact, when I had my car accident, I remember like I actually re-injured myself over and over again. I spent 2 years on crutches, but I had to do everything myself. I wouldn't let anybody open the door for me. Everything was about like, me and my own strength.
So how do we bring back conscientiousness like to the world within our family? Like I want our grandbaby to be like, man, Oma was like not having it. She was doing it. She was gonna be independent. Well, the only way we can bring that back is to do the heavy lifting of making that possible.
Well,
Are
look
you
at your
committed
mom.
to that? Because I'm going to be committed to that.
I look at Rachel's mom right now. She is in Orlando going to all the theme parks with our youngest nephew. She's 74 years old.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, she was a type 2 diabetic weighing like close to 300 pounds and could
She-
barely walk around the corner.
She literally sends me her step count every day to be like, beat this. Beat this. She sent it yesterday, 21,000 steps. My brother actually got so mad very recently. He was coming over the bridge to our house, and my mother lives on like a canal. And he says, "You have got to call your mother because I'm so furious with her."
Now,
right
he
now."
lives 4 houses away
And I
from
was like,
us.
What do you mean my mother? Why is she my mother? And he said, she has turned over a construction bucket and she is trying to get her kayak out of the water back over the embankment. She's not calling us. She is going to do it herself. But the fact that she can lift it herself and do it, I mean, is she making good choices as far as like, it's a bucket.
No,
you
she
know,
has
like,
5 male grandchildren that live within like 100 yards of her house.
But
she's
there
doing
is
it herself.
There's a power
I think she gets that from her dad.
of doing things herself. I love that.